We're about to meet two people that were caught up at the centre of Keir Starmer's crackdown on Palestine Action.
The Prime Minister has condemned pro-Palestinian activists who sparked a serious security alert.
They wish to destroy our country in order to promote a cause that actually is murderous. That is absolutely abhorrent.
Ray and Caris were wrongly arrested and accused of assisting with the break-in at RAF Brize Norton last summer.
They're really misusing and overusing their counter-terror powers. They're trying so hard to scare us.
This is the first time that they've spoken to the media about their ordeal. Lived here about 2 years, is it?
2.5 years, yeah. This is my neighbour, Vicky, so we can step over her boat.
So this is where it all happened. This is the scene of the counter-terrorism police raid.
They were kind of coming through here. I think 3 of them trying to fit in. I was here by this table. They had their faces covered, so they had these kind of fabric balaclavas and I think little caps on as well. So all black uniform, really heavy duty kind of reinforced vests. It looked terrifying, honestly. They had these huge torches that they were kind of moving around like truncheons, kind of, and just like flashing the lights. I felt like this isn't my life at the moment. This is just a film of some kind. And I just said, I'm going to blow out some candles and put some trousers on.
Has this experience of the police affected how you feel safe on the boat? Is it hard to sleep now and things like that?
For a while, I didn't want to speak out loud. I would invite people around and I was completely paranoid that I was being bugged and followed and monitored and surveyed, which I think to an extent is actually true. So yeah, I would just not speak aloud to anybody. And also thought that the police interaction didn't bother me. And then on a different occasion, I went past the same area of the towpath at night. And a big like convoy of sirens went past me. And I did like have quite a visceral reaction to that, which surprised me.
Ray is one of thousands of people caught up in the government's crackdown on Palestine Action. Her crime was living on a boat that neighboured 2 of the Brize Norton suspects, Amu Gibb and John Sink, who were charged under the National Security Act and will have spent nearly 18 months in prison before their trial even starts next year. Ray was held by the police for 36 hours before being released, although they were subject to draconian bail conditions for the next 6 months. Must have been such a contrast going from this kind of way of life to police station cell.
Totally. I mean, it's like swapping like ultimate freedom, or what people's idea of ultimate freedom is, for like being completely, yeah, seen and witnessed and in this tiny little space versus like wherever, you know?
We travel down the canal to meet Ray's friend, Caris, whose home was raided by police over the Brize Norton incident.
I was actually at work in the pub that I was working in. I got a phone call from my housemate to say that our flat had been raided by the police, so the police had turned up again. So it was the counter-terror police, about 8 of them, I think, to start with masks, like broke down our front door really violently. They took out the whole wall around the door to get in, and luckily no one was in at the time. I still had to like continue working this shift, not knowing whether the police were gonna like turn up at any second to arrest me as well, because I didn't know if they were after me or not, or why they'd gone to my flat. So yeah, it was really scary.
And you've shown us the photos of your flat. The police did a lot of damage to the doorway. It looks like they sprinkled some kind of fingerprint powder all over the kitchen. But did they then come and arrest you as well after that?
Yeah, they had a huge police presence at my flat, which is on like a very quiet road in Oxford. I stayed somewhere else that night, the first night, but I thought it was best to go back and see if they did want to speak to me, because I didn't want them to be looking for me in places and turning up to other people's houses. So I just went back and turned up at the flat, and then they told me that they were going to arrest me. So the counter-terror police raided the flat, but they were going to arrest me not under terrorism charges, just under the Serious Crime Act, for like assisting an organised crime group.
What's it like inside those cells?
When you're in there, the lights are on 24/7. and somebody is coming to look inside the cell to open the door once every half hour or hour, depending on how often they want to check on you. So they kind of interrupt your sleep if you're in the middle of the night. Yeah, you can wash your hands in 10-second intervals. There's nothing to dry your hands on. There's no toilet paper.
So your friends and family didn't know where you were. Did the police tell you how long they could keep you in that cell for?
The police didn't tell us anything, actually, except when they were harassing us on the towpath, they did say, you might never come home again.
I'm able to talk to you both today because you were released without charge and the police decided to take no further action against you both. So effectively you were innocent, but the police had trashed, in particular, your house, your flat that you were renting at the time. Did they give any compensation to fix the door and, you know, the door frame and all of that stuff?
Not at all. Yeah, luckily my landlord was understanding, kind of surprisingly, because it was such a big upheaval. And yeah, actually another friend of ours' house was also raided, and the police said that didn't lead to any arrest or anything, but the police said we will pay for this, and that never ended up happening. And yeah, for my flat, no compensation. I've asked a few times, but I really just don't think that anything will come of it.
The items they seized in the raid really reiterate how farcical the counter-terror investigations into Palestine activism are. When they returned my belongings, they returned a t-shirt which says direct action gets the goods, and I asked whether or not I would be arrested if I put it back on, and I was told yes. Those bail conditions kind of like trashed our lives, honestly. You look like you're free when you're released and you're walking around, but I had to go to Newbury police station 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, which was often a 5 or 6 hour round trip at my own expense, you know, for train tickets, to sign in. Didn't have a passport, losing the capacity to have a job, losing the capacity to travel.
All the while in the news as well, Palestine Action was suddenly being talked about by the most senior politicians as a terrorist organisation.
You get shot in another country, you would get shot. You would.
Exactly that. You don't get to break into military bases.
You were caught up right in the middle of all that. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was really quite crazy those few days, because I was arrested one day and held until the next day. The next day was the day that we heard that Amu was being remanded, and then the day after that was the day they decided to prescribe Palestine Action. When I finally had my interview and was being given bail conditions for them to release me, there was one condition which said I couldn't have contact with anyone who's an active member of Palestine Action. So that was really scary to navigate. And because of that as well, a group of my friends were waiting outside the police station for me to come out, and they wouldn't release me to my friends outside the police station after I'd been held 24 hours all alone, not really knowing what's happening. They refused to let me walk out by myself because they were saying, well, any of your friends out there might be people that are part of Palestine Action, and we don't want you to break your bail conditions straight away. So instead they drove me out a back entrance, and I could see all my friends waiting on the grass, and they just drove me away. And I think, yeah, that was one of the most painful and sad bits, because I was just finally I'm out, but I'm not, my friends are right there and I can't see them.
And you were a student at Oxford's university. Amu was someone that you'd met at the university in Camden there, and now they'd been charged under the National Security Act, and they were being talked about in the media as involved in a terrorist group.
I feel like it's important for us to talk about this now because we're able to, because we have had no charges against us. And just to sort of add to this story of how they're really misusing and overusing their counter-terror powers. And yeah, sometimes it's easy to feel like what happened to us is so minor in comparison, our friend is still in prison and other people have been in prison for so long, and the state is normalizing holding these activists in prison for so long before their trial. They're trying so hard to scare us, and sometimes it does work, and I feel like it's not bad to admit that we are scared, but we keep going.
I think it must have had a massive effect on both of you, because it's now almost a year on, and you're only just starting to come forward and talk about your experience. So yeah, it's really interesting to hear that this has been going on. Obviously, the ban on Palestine Action has been very big in the media,
but the kind of what went on behind the scenes in the days and weeks after the Brize Norton incident, I think it's quite important for people to be aware of, and so thank you for telling us about what that's been like living through that. If you like this video and you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please hit the button below. Journalism like this takes time and resources, so if you're able to support Declassified by becoming a member, please hit the link below and go to declassifieduk.org/join. Thanks for watching.